Greetings. I'm back. I am Bernie Miklasz, and this is the Bernie Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I figured it was a good time to get my Navy cap out today. You got the midshipmen open their season in college football on Saturday against VMI. I'm fired up for the start of college football season, but we're going to talk baseball today. And the Bernie Show is, as we just said, is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. So I just want to plug that again anyway, because I got lost in my own thoughts there for a second, which tends to happen a lot more than it used to. Not that I'm old or anything, but just kidding. Please do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's just one click. And while you're there, hit the like button, which is another click. It's easy. As always, feel free to comment. I don't care if you criticize me or dish a compliment or just add your perspective. All comments are appreciated, and thank you again for doing that. All right, today's topic, in terms of their home attendance and where it's going to go, will Cardinals fans put up with a rebuilding phase? The answer appears to be no, but it's not a simplistic answer. It's a little complicated. So you're going to have to walk with me through history a little bit, because I think historical perspective tells us a lot about what we can probably accept. So this one may be a little longer, but it's, I put a lot of work into looking stuff up because I want to sort of present a big picture rather than to do the hot take screaming and take a complicated subject and make it overly simple Simon. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we see the small crowds at Busch Stadium, where the Cardinals, as you know, ranked 19th in the majors in average tickets sold per home games this season. And relative to how that fits in the overall MLB attendance count, here's my first little bit of historical perspective. The Cardinals haven't ranked this poorly in home attendance since a stretch that began in 1977 and went through 1981. Back then, there were 26 teams in the majors, and the Cardinals were ranked 17th in home attendance in 1978. Then they were 15th in 79. They were 15th in 1980 and 14th in 1981. So they were in the bottom half of the major leagues in attendance for, what is it? How many years is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 consecutive years. There's been a fuss made over the Cardinals' current average home attendance being on pace for the worst in St. Louis since the 1984 season. Average tickets sold per home games, it would be the worst since 1984. But this is where I say it's complicated. It's easy for me because I've mentioned that. Boy, this will be the smallest attendance since 1984 on a per game basis. Okay. Not that simple. Yes, the average crowd size in 2025 is similar to the attendance count that was in place at the end of 1984 for the Cardinals, but this lacks context, and that's really important to understand. In 1984, there were 26 teams in the majors, and the Cardinals' average of just over 26,000 fans per home game ranked 8th among the 26 teams. Now, ranking 8th among 26 teams is a hell of a lot better than ranking 19th among 30 teams. So my point is, the comparison, it's okay, but it really lacks validity. It doesn't confirm what everyone thinks it confirms, right? In other words, I'm defending the fans way back then in 1984 because, they ranked 8th, and I realize they just won a World Series. But anyway, the Cardinals weren't very good in 83 or 84. They were all right. But, we still had top 8 in attendance among those 26 teams. Anyway, I made my point. I'm rambling. I apologize. This season, relative to overall big league home attendance rankings, the Cardinals, like I mentioned, have fallen to a place we haven't seen since that stretch in the late 70s through 1981. So this is kind of a big deal, but it's not the end all be all. The fans, not the media, have always had the power to speak truth to ownership, and they're doing it now loudly by staying away in 2025 relative to a long history of filling Busch Stadium 2 and Busch Stadium 3. The Cardinals will finish this season with fewer than 3 million in home attendance since for the first time in back-to-back years, less than 3 million in back-to-back years at home since 1996 and 1997. From 1998 through 2023, the Cardinals exceeded 3 million in annual attendance in 23 of 24 seasons. And this is basically a mid-market franchise, maybe on the higher end of the mid-market scale, but that's pretty damn impressive, right? And I know there was a lot of great baseball during that time, but the fans responded to the product that the ownership and management gave them. It worked out well for everybody. But for now, I'm not, this ain't in perpetuity. Cardinals fans have found better things to do with their money and their time and their emotions. And the empty seats at Busch Stadium is a different kind of Red Sea. It's more of a Dead Sea. And sorry for me trying to be cute there. In their last 11 home games, the Cardinals have attracted crowds of 21,000 or less 4 times. They topped 40,000 only 1 time. That was against the Cubs. They had disappointing overall crowds for 2 high-profile opponents. The Cubs and the Yankees. The average number of tickets sold per home game over the last 11 through Tuesday night was around 27,000. Things have changed dramatically, and unless the Savannah Bananas are in town, you don't have to worry about getting a ticket. I think the Bananas this year are St. Louis's favorite baseball team. And I noticed, in a related note, I noticed that people weren't afraid to come downtown to pack Busch Stadium every nook and cranny to watch the Bananas on a Friday and Saturday night a couple months ago. You have a great form of entertainment and a great product. Fans are going to fill Busch Stadium again. Okay, let's just make that straight. I didn't recall. When the Bananas were in town, I missed all of those stories. I don't know how. I must have missed all of those stories about, wild packs of roaming mobs attacking fans outside of Busch Stadium or whatever. All right, pardon my sarcasm. All right, here's the thing: if fans are staying away, let's go back to the here and the now. If the fans are staying away in the first season of the rebuild, and make no mistake about it, this is the first season of a rebuild, then what is it going to look like at Busch Stadium in 2026, the second year of the rebuild? And what's it going to look like in 2027, which would be the third year of the rebuild? But you have another factor hanging in the clouds, which is probably going to be a labor battle between the players and the owners that's probably going to eat up some of the schedule with lost games. That's not going to be good for attendance, right? So I could be wrong, and I hope I am, but I don't think the Cardinals can count on substantial support over the next 2 seasons or even slightly longer than that. There is no stomach for a rebuild, but again, I got some stuff coming up later. If you think like, well, you're thinking like, well, there you go again, you're ripping Cardinals fans. I'm not. I'm just saying right now, it doesn't seem to me there is much of a stomach for a rebuild, and I kind of understand why. Now, on the outside, people, a lot of attention this week so far, like on those teeny crowds for the Pirates series. And so it's easy for, fans in other markets, media in other markets, take shots at Cardinals fans. I get it. Mostly the theme runs along these lines. Gosh, St. Louis has had one of the best teams in the majors over the last 30 years. And then there's some downtime. You got 2 or 3 down seasons and everybody abandons the team. Again, that's simplistic. I don't think Cardinals have as much patience as I would have expected. But again, the fans get to decide what they want to do with their time and money, and I respect that. The Cardinals will miss the playoffs for a third consecutive season here in 2025, and the attendance boom for now is over, just as it was apparently, it was portrayed as being over in the late 1970s and again from 1990 through 1995. More on that coming up. And once again, the one way that the Cardinals fans can get their message across, for years I used to get emails, and this is when the Cardinals were winning. It's like, you people in the media need to just start ripping DeWitt. You people in the media need to do this. You need to do that. You got to turn up the heat. You got to do this. And I would always calmly respond the same way. And I'm like, whoa. There is only one group of people that can make a difference with ownership in terms of sending a message. And it's not a bunch of sports writers or sportscasters, okay? The people that matter and make the difference are the fans. And when all of a sudden, after all of this prosperity, in terms of what the Cardinals were drawing, all of a sudden the crowds aren't there anymore. That's the influence. That's the statement. That's the message loud and clear about the way the fans feel about this thing has been run into the ground, right? It ain't the media. I've always said you all have the power to change things. And I think the message this season, loud and clear, man. So why would the Cardinals think the fans will be fired up by a rebuilding project? I don't think they trust it yet. I get that too. I think the Cardinals know the answer, and I'm saying that they know the answer for a really simple reason. The DeWitts went out and recruited Chaim Bloom to take over the baseball operation at the conclusion of this season, but he's already making an impact with he and his people with the quick progress being made down in the player development system, the farm system. But I have a theory, which I'm going to explain when I return for my second segment of today's Bernie Show. And later on, I will also step up and defend Cardinals fans. But first, it's DraftKings time. I like to talk to you every day about DraftKings here on the Bernie Show. If you haven't played DraftKings Pick 6 daily fantasy game before, it's time to jump in for the final weeks of the 2025 baseball season, then the postseason. Then you got college football, go Navy, and go Mizzou, and go Illinois. I could name a few more, but that's about it. And the NFL is about to kick off the regular season. There's a lot going on. Wonderful time of the year to be a sports fan. And it's a fantastic time to play DraftKings Pick 6. Just jump on in there. DraftKings Pick 6 makes it simple to get started. So put your sports brain to work and put it to good use. Win some cash. You just download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings, and it's easy to get started making your fantasy picks. Each day, DraftKings sets a stat line for dozens of major league hitters or pitchers for their next game. Some things are pretty easy to scope out. Let's say when Andre Palante pitches, for example. Sorry to get sidetracked. But you just pick more or less on that stat line for two or more of your favorite players. Like, for example, if you see an Alec Burleson listed with 0.5 hits going into the next game, that means if you select more and he gets a hit, you win. If you select less and he's kept off the board, no hits, then you would win if you wagered on or invested on less than 0.5 hits. Anyway, I think you know how I'm explaining this. Anyway, winning and success is really a few clicks away, and you can even call up the player profile for the most recent trends. DraftKings gives you a lot of Pick 6 information to help you make your choices. Pick 6 is available here in Missouri, and there's nothing to hold you back. So don't settle. Above all, man, do not settle for smaller payouts at other places. No way. You deserve better. So switch to DraftKings Pick 6, and you're going to be in the right place at the right time for winning some money. Right now, new customers receive $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Just use the code STL Sports to make it happen and get started. That's the code STL Sports for new customers to get $25 in bonus selections with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. I appreciate you sticking with me as always. Welcome back to the second segment of the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. And here's a reminder to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button. All right. I said I had a theory. So here's my theory on the Cardinals rebuilding phase. This is actually a good time to rebuild because fans won't be coming back in really strong numbers anytime soon. So if you're the Cardinals, and in effect, you're going to take a hit, continue, because they're taking a hit this year in terms of attendance and revenue. If you're going to take another hit next year, the smart thing to do is to take the hit, take the pain, take the punch, and do what you got to do to rebuild the team, because the fans are not going to flock back and get up to like 3 million in 2025 or 2026. So my point is, this is a good time. I'm going to repeat it again. It's a good time to take the punch and just do what you got to do to rebuild this thing. I've used this phrase a few times, and I'll use it again, and this is sort of related to what I just said. The Cardinals let this team decline, and now they got to take their medicine, and they got to put up with the pain, and they got to put up with their own frustration for letting this great product of theirs deteriorate when they didn't have to do that. But a rebuild also means something else. The payroll costs will go down, and they're going to stay down. Not forever, but they'll stay down during the rebuild because that's what rebuilding is. Any team that rebuilds does that. Now, I could explain why that actually makes sense in a very pragmatic way, but I think I know better than to try to talk about that because, a lot of fans utterly obsessed with payroll size. As I've pointed out, probably too much. I'm sure I get on your nerves saying that, but it's true. Utterly obsessed with payroll size instead of focusing on the stuff that's really important, which is getting a hell of a lot smarter on how you put a team together instead of making idiotic, compulsive, ridiculous, stupid spending decisions that will keep this team mired in mediocrity and will keep this franchise chasing the highly intelligent but small budget operation like the Milwaukee Brewers, who continue to embarrass the Cardinals, even though the Cardinals, since the start of 2017, have outspent the Brewers by $350 million in payroll. You get mad at me when I say this, and I'm going to say it again because it needs to be said again. Bill DeWitt ain't going to be throwing down 300, 400, 500 million for the high-end free agents because he's never done that. And he's been one of the most successful owners in baseball over the last 30 years. His winning percentage as the owner of the Cardinals is tied for 4th overall and 3rd in the National League since 1996. And the postseason record, even with this dry spell, is quite accomplished and quite impressive. So DeWitt, for now, is putting his considerable resources in the player development side. Nobody wants to hear that either. Well, some do. The investment appears to be paying off early on. I kind of like what I'm seeing in terms of how it's being perceived by people who track farm systems and player development for a living. For example, Fangraphs, which has not been kind to the Cardinals in recent years in assessing their prospects and assessing the state of their farm system. Fangraphs in the updated rankings at midseason, they have the Cardinals rated number 6 overall in the majors for the best farm system. And ESPN's Kylie McDaniels, who I think does a really good job, he's got the Cardinals in his updated midseason rankings. He's got them as the number 9 farm system, number 9. And not too long ago, and I did the research on this, you have to trust me, Not too long ago, the Cardinals were down there 20th, 21st, 22nd in the farm system rankings. But the people who track this for a living, they're seeing the Chaim Bloom effect because they're seeing the people that he's hiring, and they know the people that he's hiring, and they're impressed by the people that he's hiring. And already they're changing and shifting some philosophies on certain things. Like you got to get away with so much pitch to contact pitchers. You need to be able to strike people out more often, because if you can't strike people out, then you become Miles Michaelis or Andre Palante, right? You can't always rely on those guys. Balls in play all the time. Anyway, the people, the neutral observers, third-party observers, are really impressed by what's happening in the early days of the Bloom regime relative to the player development system. So back to my theory. Bloom's already off to a good start, but he can continue to rebuild this mess and do the cleanup. And the cleanup is long overdue. And Chaim Bloom can do it the right way instead of feeling external pressure. And this is one of the things that got John Mozeliak in trouble, feeling that external pressure to make half-baked, half-measure, half-ass moves that don't make much difference. And the only thing it does is waste more money. If you're going to rebuild, then rebuild and do it the right way. Or, I don't know, I guess we could stay the way things are. Keep doing the half-ass moves, not really putting enough money into the thing, having a bad farm system, not tapping into the international market, having the 22nd best winning percentage over the last 3 seasons. I guess we could stay there. I'd rather not, personally. And given Bloom's superb track record in drafting and player development, the Cardinals they're going to come out of this as a better and stronger team. Then they're going to have a more sustainable foundation for success. And there will be a time where they're going to spend more money. But for now, keep putting money into the farm. Keep putting more money into the international free agent market. Don't waste money on veteran, mediocre talent and paying for guys based on what they've done in the past instead of what they will do for you in the future. It's stupid to continue doing that if you're the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't want to see the muck that we've been dealing with since the start of the 2023 season. The Cardinals, I mentioned, 22nd in the majors in winning percentage. They're going to miss the playoffs for a third straight year. That did happen from 2016 through 2018. But those teams were a little better than the teams these last 3 years. So the rebuild gives Bloom time to do the job the way it needs to be done. To me, that's much more preferable, as I've said, than repeating this roster construction lunacy we've been subjected to for way too long. When I return for my third and final segment of today's Bernie Show, I want to make another point that should be put out there, and it's about the fan support and putting it in perspective in 2025. I think I got my sarcasm out of the way and my hollering of saying stupid all the time. I think I'm done with that for today. And I think you'll like what I'm going to say coming up in the third segment. But first, some encouraging words about Blue Chew. And I am proud to be able to speak on behalf of Blue Chew to my fellow men out there, because Blue Chew can help you raise your game for those intimate and wonderful times with your partner. And I'm not in any way feel awkward about talking like this. I mean, I know what Blue Chew's done for me, and I know what it's done for other people that I know, and so I'm happy to get the word out. Gentlemen, you can add more excitement and pleasure with an assist from Big Blue, and they're waiting for you. No need to hesitate. No need to feel awkward. Just chew it and do it, as we like to say. Increase your horsepower, your manpower, your vitality, your quality of life. Blue Chew is there for you. So make the move. Instead of stalling out, why not rev up the engine? To use a baseball analogy, fellas, if you need a more powerful bat, you need, let's just say you need a higher, exit velocity. Blue Chew's in the equipment room. Go get it. And you can hit home runs in the bedroom or any other room. This applies to men of all ages, including dudes like me who are over 60 years old. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for enhanced performance. You will get your first month of Blue Chew free. You're just a few clicks away. You sign up at bluechew.com. You consult with one of the licensed medical providers, and once you are approved, you will receive your prescription at your doorstep in a few days. It's all done online, simple and private, and Blue Chew is made and prepared in the USA. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use the promo code Bernie. That's me. The promo code Bernie. You pay $5 shipping. That's it. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety info. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the Bernie Show. Do it and do it. All right. Let's thank you for sticking around. I do appreciate you for sticking around as I offer support to people that are supporting the Bernie Show. We're back from the third and final segment today. And once again, I'm being very needy, asking you to do things. But seriously, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the like button. I appreciate it. I want to look at the 2025 Cardinals attendance in another way, and I think it'll add some perspective to the discussion. I really do, because I got a kick out of looking these things up today and just trying to put it in perspective. And I thought, well, that puts it in a different perspective, so I wanted to share it. What am I talking about? I'll explain. The Cardinals are ranked 19th in average tickets sold to home games this season, and I'm not trying to say, oh, there's nothing wrong with that, or oh, that's not that big of a deal. It hasn't changed. Yeah, it's changed a lot. But there is something deeper than this. And if you look around, you realize, well, wait a minute, this is not the end of the world as we know it. And yeah, seeing them ranked 19th is surprising, because it's just been so long since that something like that's even been close to happening. But let's not overlook a few things, and I'm just going to count them down for you. Number one, the Cardinals are selling only, on average, they're selling only 3,600 fewer tickets per home game than the Brewers, a team that's got the best record in the majors and is the story of the year so far in baseball. The Cardinals aren't really that far behind them in the attendance count. Two, the Cardinals are selling, I like this one because it gets us down to less than 1,000. The Cardinals are selling only 844 fewer tickets per home game than the Detroit Tigers, who have the top record in the American League, the second best record in the major leagues. They play in a much larger market than the Cardinals, and they'll be competing in the postseason for the second straight year. And yet, for all the hits they're taking from the outside, Cardinals fans are buying virtually the same amount of tickets per home game as the Tigers fans are in 2025. Three, the Seattle Mariners are averaging about 1,800 more tickets sold per home game than the Cardinals. The Mariners are 9 games over 500. They got a chance to make the playoffs. They have the breakout star of 2025 and Cal Riley, who I always say his name wrong, Raleigh, as in North Carolina. Cal Raleigh, who's got 50 home runs and 107 RBIs. Yeah, and yet they're selling on average about 1,800 more tickets per home game than the Cardinals are. And Seattle's a pretty big market. They got that whole territory to themselves. That's the other thing. 4, the Cardinals are outdrawing the Kansas City Royals by 6,840 tickets sold per home game. The Cardinals are outdrawing the Royals in terms of average tickets sold by nearly 7,000 tickets per home game. Even though KC is 3 games over 500, the Royals won the American League pennant in 2014, 2015, won the World Series in 15. The Cardinals have done none of that. The last time they won a pennant was 2013. Yet the Cardinals are outdrawing the Royals, and it's not even by a slim amount. It's by quite a bit. 5, the Cardinals have sold an average of only 673 fewer tickets per home game than the Diamondbacks. I bring this up because the Diamondbacks, first of all, are spending about $38 million more than the Cardinals this year. And the Diamondbacks won the pennant in 2023. I mean, that's less than 2 years ago. But yet the Cardinals fans are basically matching Diamondbacks fans in terms of tickets sold per home game. Number 6, the Cardinals are selling an average of just 1,400 fewer tickets per home game than the Texas Rangers. That's the franchise with the 7th largest payroll that is based in a sprawling, massive market in Texas. And the Rangers won the World Series in 2023, and they make big free agent splashes all the time, and they are managed by the slam dunk Hall of Famer Bruce Bochy. Cardinals fans are holding their own when you compare tickets per home game sold to what the Texas Rangers are doing. 7, I think this is the last one. The Cardinals fans are buying more tickets to home games than Cincinnati Reds fans this season. Even though Cincinnati is 3 games better than the Cardinals in the standings in Central Division, and even though the Reds are positioned only 3.5 games out of a wild card spot, the Reds are managed by the legend, the future Hall of Famer, Terry Francona. They have one of the best starting pitching rotations in the majors. They have a dazzling star in Ellie De La Cruz. There's a lot to like about the Reds if you're a Reds fan. But despite that, the Reds are ranked only 1 spot behind the Cardinals. I should say the Cardinals are, I'm screwing my own note up, pardon me. The Reds are actually 1 spot behind the Cardinals in the home attendance rankings. I mean, I'll leave it at that, right? Reds fans have a reason to be more energized and excited than Cardinals fans, right? Now, Cardinals fans, here's what I'm getting at. But I'd love to give you examples. Here's what I'm getting at. Cardinals fans have nothing to apologize for. Despite having a team that's below 500 since the start of 2023 and a team that has not won a playoff round since 2019, Cardinals fans are buying more tickets than Reds fans, Royals fans, nearly as many as Detroit fans and Arizona fans. And the Cardinals are not that far behind in ticket sales compared to the Brewers, the Mariners, and the Rangers. The Cardinals are rebuilding. See, they're selling this number of tickets this year. It's happening in the first year of a rebuild. And this rebuild is really a two-tiered thing. They got to rebuild the team, and then they got to rebuild the fan support. And if Bloom and his administration do this right, and I'm confident that they will, even though it will make some people uncomfortable because it's like, well, when are all these prospects going to arrive? One thing about that, because I've had people tell me, well, all you people do is talk about prospects. Then they come up here, blah, 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 blah. Okay. It's a point. It's a legitimate point to make. But that's why they brought in Chaim Bloom. That's why they're pumping a lot of money into the farm system, because the Cardinals fell behind in that area and they were not properly developing their prospects, and they were not properly scouting out things, and they didn't have enough instructors or teachers or coaches. They didn't have adequate facilities. They were way behind in the technology. So yeah, with that kind of thing, you're going to have some prospects who should do better come to the majors and not do better. At least now the Cardinals are putting their resources into making this the best that it can be, and to develop these players as best as they can, rather than shortchanging the development. But the Cardinals have to rebuild not just the team, but they got to rebuild the fan support. And like I said, if Chaim Bloom and his administration do this right, the Cardinals and their fans will make a comeback. Cardinals fans may not have the stomach for a rebuild right now, as I said earlier, because right now they're pretty angry and frustrated over a lot of things. And yet the attendance, when measured against some teams that should be drawing a lot more, or teams that shouldn't be drawing less than the Cardinals, when you look at it through that lens, it's actually fine. It's not that big of a deal, even though it's a shock to the system because we're not seeing the Cardinals ranked 19th. So I understand the anger and the frustration out there, but I also really believe, and you're going to like this historical perspective, I also believe Cardinals fans will respond as soon as the rebuild begins to trend in a positive direction. It might take J.J. Weatherholt coming up here and being an immediate impact hitter, offensive star. It might be with Liam Doyle coming up here striking out, 9 guys, 10 guys a game. Might be the slick lefty Quinn Matthews coming up and, just tying up major league hitters. I mean, they do have some talent on the way. They have some really good young catchers on the way. They have this Joshua Baez, who they drafted out of high school back in 2021. He's on the way. They got some stuff coming here. But the reason why I believe Cardinals fans will respond when the rebuild begins to trend in a positive direction, they're going to sit and wait. I get it. But I think this because I was looking back in history, and there have been different generations of Cardinals fans who have done this before. After those great teams in 1964, 1967, and 68, the Cardinals failed to make the playoffs from 1969 through 1981. But they still ranked in the top 11 in Major League attendance in 9 of the 13 seasons. It wasn't until the late 70s where they kind of slipped into the bottom half of attendance. I thought they stayed in the pocket, to use a football term. I thought they stayed in the pocket pretty well. They hung tough. The Cardinals of the early 90s had a .485 winning percentage from 1990 through 1995, but they ranked in the top 10 in attendance in the major leagues in all but one of those seasons. Once again, man, I covered those teams. I wrote columns about those teams. There was some good stuff here and there, but it was those pitching staffs that Joe Torre had to work with, had to go into competition with. Dal Maxwell had a trade in place for a really good reliever when the Cardinals, I think it was in 93, and they actually had a pretty good club that year. And Dal Maxwell went to the Brewery and said, we need to, we really need a bullpen. We're missing it. And we think we can make the playoffs. Well, the reliever in question was making too much money for the Brewery's taste. And we didn't know it then, but we know it now. They were preparing to sell the team. They were going to keep costs at a minimum, right? So Dal Maxwell shopped around to fit the price range that he was allowed to spend, looking for a reliever. And ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are of a certain age, you will remember this name. Those of you who do not know this name or remember this name, you should look it up at Baseball Reference and look at the season in St. Louis that this gentleman had. So Dal Maxwell, after getting slapped down by the Brewery, when his attempt to get a good reliever, he went out and made a trade for Todd Burns, who was quickly nicknamed Third Degree Burns. Todd Third Degree Burns. Go look at him at Baseball Reference. That's what the Cardinals, that's what Joe Torre and Dal Maxwell had to deal with. Anyway, but yet the Cardinals fans were in the top 10. Those from 90 through 95, they were in the top 10 in all but one of those years. So during some hard times for the team on the field, the Cardinals have had, I think, respectable, admirable support for their fans. And based on the information I told you in terms of comparing the Cardinals fans in the attendance this year to some other teams that should be drawing a lot more, I think the Cardinals are still getting respectable, admirable support from their fans. And in each case, following the 1970s and early 90s, two different times, it took a rebuild to energize the fan base. And the Cardinals are in the same spot with their fans right now. And I know what some of you are going to say, and it's a good point. Well, Bernie, Whitey Herzog led the rebuild coming in the early 80s, and Tony La Russa and Walt Jocketty led the rebuild starting in 96 when Bill DeWitt bought the team. But the rebuild was, in fact, started by Bill DeWitt because he made sure money was no problem whatsoever when it came time to recruit Tony La Russa and some pretty expensive coaches, right? But your point is well taken. The Cardinals don't have this superstar guy that everybody knows, coming in to rebuild this thing. You're going to have to trust Chaim Bloom, and you should. because he's the ideal guy to lead a rebuild. But the Cardinals are in the same spot right now with their fans that they were 2 other different times as this franchise came out of highly successful periods. Those great teams in the 60s and then the Whitey Herzog Cardinals in the 80s. Both times a rebuild was necessary, or just had to do things a lot differently, and they did. The fans hung in the pocket really well, in my opinion, and then the fans were energized and turned right back up and back in the ballpark, filling it up as soon as they saw that progress and positivity was being established. So if the Cardinals rebuild it, the fans will come. That's all for today. I'm sorry for the length of this, but I had a lot to talk about. I thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel here at STL Sports Central for extensive coverage of all the local teams that you care about and love. I'll be back tomorrow with another Bernie Show video, and as always, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Have a wonderful day.